No More Heroes, a game about there being no more heroes because it does not lie about its title at all and gives you exactly what it says. A game about a somewhat hot-headed, somewhat young man who loves anime, games, wrestling and other nerdy things who basically got scammed by a pretty woman he met at a bar to become an assassin to get into bed with her. And he does all of that with a lightsaber, which just shows you that you can't trust people who are into Star Wars. Just watch Star Trek instead, or Stargate. I'm mostly just gonna talk about the first game for now, as a somewhat standalone title, so at points you may think, hey, but he changed later on, and I will mention the other games sometimes when it's really needed, but please treat it more like a retrospective of the first game only, since I plan on doing them one by one. It was the second game I ever bought when I finally turned 16 and could buy big boy games for that age. The first one was Counter-Strike Source for some friends, and I played through the game how most teenagers would play through it, enjoying it for the crazy ride and cool moments, not seeing the deeper meaning behind its themes and all that. And I would say you don't have to, that's the beauty of it. It works as a crazy ride kind of game, but it also works as a game that has more to say than just being over the top, so you can analyze it as much as you want to. And that's what I wanted to do. So I'm also playing it on the original console it released on, the Wii, despite the Switch ports being pretty good, but I have heard bad things about the Steam version, which is sad. People deserve to play these games in the best way possible, and I mean without motion controls, it just wouldn't be the same anyways, right? So enjoy the footage I captured with my glorious $5 HDMI adapter for my Wii from China. Also, I chose the American version of the game because it's the only one with blood and heads flying around and all that. If they released the American version here, I think the Germans would have had another game getting banned. There's two things you will mostly be doing going around the open world, and either doing mundane mini jobs or little missions that give you money to unlock the next stage, and then the parts where you actually play these stages with a boss at the end of them. The highlights of the game after all, wanting to see the cool design of the next assassin, their personality, what they fight for, how they fight, things like that. It's what I think people love the most about this franchise. The game throws you right into the action after you finish the tutorial and lets you slash and hash your way through the enemies like the hash slinging slasher if you would have actually slashed people, and you get greeted with your first boss. Now if you beat him, you would probably expect the game to go on like this, going from stage to just enjoy this kind of gameplay. Too bad, go earn some money first. It's doing the typical letting the players breathe thing that most games do. You have just done a cool boss battle and want more of those? Nope. Now you first have to do something boring before doing something cool again. That's how many games operate, and it's up to yourself to decide if you like it or not. In some games it works, in others I just want to have action, and even more action. I kinda like it here because some of the minigames are fairly fun and your arm probably needs a bit of rest after waggling it around anyways. It's also building up this surreal joke of Travis being an assassin but still mowing someone else's lawn, since that's just a thing assassins do when they're short on cash. Eventually the minigames do kinda pull the game down a bit though when you need tons of cash, and you will most likely just do the best paying mini missions over and over to get enough money from it, which just involves killing a pizza CEO who totally isn't important at all and surely won't play a role in any of the other games, right? At least it makes Travis look like a hard worker, you know? It's a nice character trait to have, stooping as low as possible to make money, regardless of what people will think of you, even if it may be a bit degrading. Nobody wants to work at McDonald's, but someone has to do it, and you shouldn't judge them for it. People gotta pay their rent and have to do what it takes, so don't make fun of anyone working jobs you consider as shitty. Because even Travis doesn't. If I saw Travis flipping my burger, I would most likely think I'm in for the best burger ever, actually. One thing I hate about it is that you always have to drive back and forth. Want to do a mini job? Go to the job center and accept it. Then drive to the place where you have to do your job, and then you have to drive back to accept it again, or something else just to drive to another place again. Just give me a retry button or something so I can just repeatedly do it without having to waste my time, driving the same path again and again. So the game does enjoy wasting your time a tiny bit sometimes. I really like mowing the lawn though, and I would play it for the whole day if it had more stages. There's just something relaxing about it. Here, look at some footage of me doing the same in Roblox from a scrap video about it, or maybe I would still make it one day. You can really see that I love to whip out the grass from its soil. There's some other decent minigames like finding lost cats because it's cute and collecting trash, but then the absolute worst one is probably the jump with your bike one. You only have to jump with your bike twice in the whole game to be able to get to one of the last bosses, and before that you probably don't even know you can even jump with it, because if you waggle up the Wii mode the bike jumps. Now after you learn that, you unlock a jumping challenge mini job, and if you fail it once, it's already over. So you drive to accept it, you drive to the place where it happens, you then drive around a bit again to fail the jump because you don't know the timing on this ramp and think you have to jump when you hop onto it and fail, and then you have to drive back to the mini job center and do it all over again because, like I said, there's no retry button and you most likely will just say, heck it, I'm gonna stay away from this. I don't want to unlock the last 2 assassin missions anyways. Maybe that's also just the game telling you that working will always suck, even if it's done in a video game. We all dread waking up and having to drive to work with a car, or with the subway, or anything you need. It's a waste of time. I already have to work 8 hours a day, but basically I'm gone for 10 hours a day because of the way to work and way back. Perfect for people who love podcasts though, I guess. I hope you can have fun listening to those if you do. It also doesn't help that the open world runs like poop, and Travis's bike has a mind on its own that you first have to get used to. I had it way worse in my memory for some reason and thought it's one of the worst controlling vehicles ever, but it's actually fine if you get used to it. The open world is also pretty empty. Obviously there's technical limitations because the Wii can't show you thousands of NPCs or cars, but since the other games also kinda build on the fact that big investors are coming into the city to try to make it into a big city like New York, you can also just think it was meant to be like this right from the start, showing that this town has no perspective, and it's also why Travis is just stuck here. You often see Americans complain about things like this, having nothing to do in their backwater town, and the biggest attraction is their local Walmart. There's a couple of things to do here though, like 3 missions that mostly work in such a way that you kill as many people as you can before you get hit once, and then it ends, and I really suck at those, but they're quick money if you don't suck as hard as I do. You can find basketball balls that unlock new techniques at the bar, and luckily after you unlock the bar, you actually get these balls mapped onto your map, otherwise I would have never bothered to even collect more than just a few. You can go to the gym and have fun working out with Travis's master, who likes to be a bit weird, but in a nice way. We all got that one uncle that acts like this, but maybe without being a part of the Yakuza. Depends on you. Can't speak for everyone here. In the manual you even have a little question and answer with him where he tells you that if you can't get a girlfriend, just hit the gym. Sorry for the low quality shots, but my phone is old and busted like me. In general, I love the manual because I'm imagining Travis talking German and he just tells you, time to rent out some porn, but in German. He's also that kind of man who calls his dick his best friend, but let's be honest here, he kinda do be packing heat, damn. And people call him a loser, not if they see that. Or you can also enjoy shopping for t-shirts at Area 51 and buy the shirts of Travis's favorite anime, who are also the most expensive ones, totally worth it though. If Pure White Glover Bizarre Jelly would be a real anime, I would watch it, and I love how No More Heroes 2 has an actual opening for it. But if you're low on cash and don't want to pay some of these prices for those shirts, you can just dumpster dive to also find some shirts and money. The only bad thing about it is that Travis for some reason immediately puts on the shirt you have just found. Imagine the smell. Why would he do this? Why not go wash it first? I kinda hated finding shirts instead of money because most of them are kinda ugly, but mostly because I always had to go to my closet again to change back to the best t-shirt in the game. I love you, Strawberry. Also have to apologize for changing his iconic red jacket out pretty early, but I like the black one more, emo style. Now with that boring stuff out of the way, let's talk about the actual gameplay. Its combat gives you all of the main ingredients right at the start, something most games nowadays just kinda don't, locking things behind tons of skill trees and all that. Here you get your main moves and can be totally fine with them till the end of the game. Obviously, like I said earlier, you can unlock some extra moves like the jumping slash with your balls, but they are not really required, but they do help out. There's 2 stances, high and low, like a casino. There you can also go high or low, right? I never actually visited one because gambling is bad, so don't do that. Depending on what guard your enemy has, you have to change your stance by holding the remote up or in a lower position. So if an enemy guards low, you have to hit him high and the other way around. Aside from that, you just have to smash that A button and go to town on your enemies, slicing into the direction the game tells you after you reduce the health to 0 to kill them, and hope you get a slash attack because if you get a death blow to the left or right, it does AoE damage and wipe out most of the enemies around you. If you get one that goes forward, up or down, it can still kill an enemy that is behind another enemy, but they're rarely stacked like that and mostly circle around you. It's just so satisfying to slice to the right or left and see a bunch of heads flying off into the distance. There's also the dark side mode where after each kill you get a slot machine spinning, and if you're lucky and get a symbol 3 times, you basically go into a different state depending on the symbol, and just bash the enemies to pull because every mode is pretty much overpowered and you can't be damaged in them. And then there's the Dark Step, an evade move that you can either activate by evading perfectly before an enemy lands to attack, or by blocking and then evading at a certain point. Let me demonstrate it on the most unimportant boss fight in the game against some random dude. I suck at explaining these kind of things and the game does not even tell you about it, which I think is kinda mean to the player. When you get it right, it makes a little sound and the world around you goes dark when it slows down, so you can bash your opponent, and I think most people just go, huh? What was that? How did I do that? If you put a bit of training into it, you can do it pretty consistently, but for me it's mostly luck since I'm a real man who fights fair. I don't need some anti-matrix slow down stuff. Actually I do. But you can also use your fists since Travis is a big wrestling fan, especially of lucha libre, and did some wrestling himself. With the B button you can punch people, and if you hold it, you give them a nasty punch to daze them so you can grab them and do some wrestling moves on them, which are randomly chosen but do the same, just crashing the enemies onto the floor and killing them, or you easily just stabbing them onto the floor. You unlock a whole bunch of them throughout the game, and I'm a bit sad you can't choose which attack you do each time. As a German myself, I would always just choose the German suplex, and we all know that Travis loves German culture.
Hi, this is Diane from Beefhead Videos. This is a message for Mr. Travis Touchdown. Just calling to remind you that you haven't returned one of our rentals. Let's see here. It's titled Big German Jugs Collection number 23. Be sure to return it soon. Have a nice day.
You also have to make sure the battery on your beam katana does not run out, and to recharge it you have to vaguely remote as if you were jerking off kinda. Yep, that's the one thing that the game was mostly known for back in the day. Whenever it came up you saw at least one person going, oh, the game where you jerk the remote off, hell yeah. The combat is pretty fun and satisfying despite being so simple, and I'm happy they didn't go the full waggle route. Imagine if you had to swing the remote or nunchuck every single time you did a swing instead of just having to do it with the death blows. My right arm would be even stronger than it already is. The normal enemies you will have to fight won't ever truly be a problem unless they get you into a corner and you get a bit pushed around by them, or if there's a person with a machine gun around, because those drain your battery super duper fast if you try to block their bullets, and then you stand there with your pants down, and they're just really annoying overall, which is the point of them. You shouldn't be happy when someone shoots at you with a machine gun. Sadly, before I can get to the super duper ultra cool parts of the game, I have to bonk it first for its fairly bad level design. But is it even important in a game such as this? Nobody complains about just going from left to right and sometimes going up in Streets of Rage or Double Dragon. You don't really mind that. Why would I suddenly want to have to do some puzzles to having to go through mazes when following a linear path can do the trick? You just want to beat up baddies, and it doesn't matter if you're just going through more hallways than Final Fantasy XIII has. Because that's what you will do here, but it always has a change in scenery which helps out a lot. Sometimes you're on the train and on the bus, or in some stadium underground at school, some big underground tunnel where your twin brother taunts you by running right in front of you and giving it a cool atmosphere because of it, and some more. And it's kinda what you want, slashing your way through tons of enemies with cool scenery. Level design is important for a good Zelda dungeon, but is it really important here? Would it have made the game better if every stage took an hour but had puzzles and other stuff stuffed into it? I think it would have actually made it worse. There is no right or wrong here, so it's something you can only judge on your own opinion, and in mine, I don't care. They have the right length for the simplistic gameplay and always end almost exactly at the point of where your brain goes, I really wouldn't mind if I get to the boss now. Unlike a certain parking lot in one of the following games that made me think my game is bugged with how much time you have to spend there. Whoever was responsible for that parking lot is dumb. At the end of every hallway, right in front of the boss, you even get to save on a toilet, and even the toilets change based on real life locations, because we all got that one working random toilet somewhere in our local forest. You will also always receive a call from Sylvia where your remote pretends to be Travis's phone, so you better have the speakers on, because I did not, and you can see me quickly trying to go into the Wii U home menu to turn them back on, but the game did not allow that. Also did not have the subtitles on yet, so for me it was just pure silence and looked like as if Travis hit the mute button, like a streamer when they get an important call. Yay, finally time to talk about what people love so much about these games, the big fights. Travis was a little conned into joining the United Assassins Association, who has a rank list going from 11 to 1. On his journey to rank 1, every number on the ranking means nothing to Travis, till they actually matter to him to a degree and help him grow to become a different person in different ways, except for some like, let's shake. And we got all kinds of assassins, cool samurai girl, cringe superhero cosplayer, mother brain, bitchy girl, the weird theater kid from school, Irish people. It just shows you that everyone can be an assassin, which I think is wonderful. It's the wide variety of them that makes you wonder yourself, what kind would you be? The young, ambitious one that wants to go to the #1 spot just like Travis so he can have sex, for your own selfish reason? Would you grow complacent like death metal and be the kind that just enjoys his status for as long as possible? In the end, there is no right or wrong reason to become one really. In the end, it's all the same. Each of these characters is just kinda trash. And to a degree, you do feel bad for some of them, but at no point does the game ever pull the wow, they had such a sad backstory, please feel bad for them, and actually see them as some kind of hero instead, which can work, but most of the time that cliche falls flat for me, especially if a manga or anime or game or whatever tries to do that with almost all of its evil characters. I'm not gonna go through them one by one and tell you about how they fight or anything like that, but all of them have their main gimmicks, sometimes even two gimmicks. Dr. Peace fights with a gun, Batgirl has a bat and she sends ton of her masochistic followers right at you with it, and I suck at timing so I hated it whenever she did that move because you can't hurt her doing it unless you send them back to her, and I, again, suck at timing. And then her other thing is also pretending to cry on the floor, and if you stay too close you get one-shotted. Speedbuster, which is the obligatory super gimmicky boss, and basically it's you having to run through a hallway trying to avoid a giant laser. Towards some of the later bosses, they felt like some fairly big damage sponges to me though, especially Batgirl. She's called Batgirl because she's bad and also uses a bat, get it? Most because they give you such a little window to attack them with. You have to chip away at them with a few hits before they can't be hit anymore, and then you have to wait till you can do it again and again and again. And I always made sure to be on top with my beam katana, having the newest upgrades and going to the gym when possible. I forgive them for this though, especially Henry, the secret fun boss, because it's just way too easy to use the dark step on him, so despite him taking 1,000 hits, you are never truly in danger. Their fights or just meeting them at all are somewhat the highlights of the game, just to see what kind of crazy mother trucker you get to see next. Most of the story bits that come with them are also pretty cliche heavy, but I think that was totally the point of them. Travis loves anime and games, and he always kinda wanted his life to be like one, so it's only fair he gets to enjoy those tropes in his own life now. Meeting Shinobu, who wants to take revenge for her father that was murdered and thinks that Travis did it even though he didn't. He gets to see his own master being killed by Speedbuster, a cliché that pretty much every single shonen character has to go through, and his own dad, who isn't actually his real dad, but he pretends to be his dad so he can make a sick Star Wars reference, so instead he can be killed by Travis's half-sister, who is the actual killer of Travis's real dad, because of all the abuse she had to endure because of him, leaving her mother for Travis's mom and her mom killing herself because of it, and him just taking advantage of that and her almost daily. You don't get that information from the normal game, even though you kinda do. It happens in a cutscene that is fast forwarded because Gene doesn't want to raise the age rating of the game even higher. What an epic meta joke. I don't think it works like that, but let's pretend it did, so I will have to thank Gene for doing this since the game is rated 16+ in Germany, and if it would have been for people who are at least 18 then, I would have not been able to buy it till 2 years later. Have to say, from all the people who deserve to die the most in this game, it was Travis's dad. Even if you don't get to see it, except for in a short cutscene when Travis remembers everything. No wonder Travis is kinda messed up. It's pretty hard to live a normal life if you saw your parents' guts spilled all over the floor in front of you. And it also makes sense he mostly tried to push that to the bottom of his brain, because that's just what the brain tries to do in many cases, because remembering such unpleasant things is bad for our psyche. Sadly, you have to confront the past sometimes. Maybe even have to kill it. Just your normal average Sunday, I guess. We even find out that the whole organization was basically just a scam by Sylvia, who found a bunch of crazy people who want to murder each other for a meaningless rank, paying high sums to enter these fights so she can just pocket all of it and fuck off eventually when she had enough to find the next person she can scam. It's all a bit muddy about it after all. Towards the end of the game, Travis calls Sylvia's mom, who tells him he just fell for the scam, like many before him. But then how would the mom know that the next battle is next to a castle? And why is she also talking about the Garden of Madness? Did Sylvia talk to her about it? Did Sylvia basically make her mom a part of it to trick Travis? We don't know that, and in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter if it was real or not, since what Travis went through was real, even if he got scammed maybe along the way. What speaks for the organization already being real is that even after Sylvia is gone, there's people going after Travis. Such as Eamon Palmer, who tries to kill Travis after the real game is over, who is supposed to be Emil Parkreiner from Killer 7, Suda 51's magnum opus for me, but since Capcom has the rights for that, they couldn't just use that name. Nowadays we know that many of his games play in the same universe, so it tracks even though he dies way too easily for who he is, and well, I don't believe that it was truly him. Would be a waste to throw away a character such as him in this kind of way. Sylvia is known to be a serial scammer and con artist, a liar through and through, where you don't know what to believe or what not to believe. How did she even manage to set up the fight so easily, or even find Jean when Travis couldn't? Towards the end of the game she even gets pretty close to Travis and kisses him. Is it all just a part of the game too? Sometimes she says she wants Travis to be killed. Sometimes she says she doesn't want that. I would probably go crazy with those kind of mixed signals. Doesn't help that you find out she's the wife of your twin brother, which just makes everything even worse, or better. And Travis actually ends up having kids with Sylvia, calling his daughter Jean. So her feelings were true, to a degree. You don't have kids with people you don't even love. Actually, people do that. Like I said earlier, you can see No More Heroes just as the totally over-the-top kind of entertainment. You're having fun with it and don't think too deeply about it, and you're just in for the wild ride. Or you can actually try to look deeper behind the curtains and engage with its themes. That's what I love about Suda 51 games. They all walk the line well with how you can just enjoy them without deeper thoughts, and then maybe on a replay you can try to piece 1 plus 1 together and see how much depth they actually have at times. It's up to you. You do what is fun for you. I personally don't care if someone calls No More Heroes the game where you jog off the meme mode and just takes the whole game as a big shitpost. The very first boss already beats you over the head with the message of how killing is actually a bad thing to do, obviously. Even a Call of Duty does that, even when you mow down thousands of opponents. Calling this view and the whole villa and death metal's life a paradise, despite it being as far away as possible from it since you have to kill and keep on pilling to build such a paradise to keep it. Is it really a paradise if you have to keep killing for it? What is paradise really? For Travis it would be basically having this villa, some bunch of hot girls and tons of video games to play and anime to watch without any worries in the world. For others it would be having the perfect family. We all have a different definition of what paradise is, but I think one thing we would all agree on when it comes to living in a paradise would be having no dangers around, no worries, everything would be perfect. Here, that isn't the case and will never be the case really for Travis. It binds itself right at the end of the game where Travis is just taking a shit and gets randomly attacked, because he's the number one now and more people will want to take his place than ever. The endless cycle of an assassin and a person that made themselves too many enemies to ever truly have a paradise anymore. Even if you have everything you ever wanted, there is no more paradise waiting for you except in death. Unless your sense of paradise is this kind of danger. Killing for fame, killing for fun, killing for any reason as long as you can keep killing. If that's your sense of paradise, then I would consider you to seek a bit of therapy though. I mean, it's even right there in the title, No More Heroes. It's not lying about it at all, like I said, except for maybe the third game since Travis is kinda an actual hero, saving the world from aliens. Obviously that wasn't planned since the first game though, not even for the second one, which the game even makes fun of in the secret final boss cutscene after all. That the franchise continued makes me a bit sad, but also happy since I like all of them, more or less. Getting more isn't always better, that's all I'm gonna say for now. It had the perfect beginning and ending point, showing you that this cycle is just not broken and can't be broken. It's only broken when Travis dies, and then someone else just wants to take over, and someone after it maybe. At the original end, it just seems that Travis and Henry both died because they both swing their beam katanas right at each other with full speed and should have cut each other into two pieces. The end. But we live in a timeline where a bunch of sequels got made and it undermines its own point a tiny bit because of it. But we also got character development in the first game obviously. I don't think it's a coincidence that Shinobu is followed by Destroyman and then by Holly Summers. Shinobu is the first person that Travis forgives, despite her basically just having killed some of her classmates for no reason at all, except them finding out she's kinda an assassin, which is her own fault for carrying a katana to school. So Sylvia tells Travis he may regret letting her live, because she can come back and kill him in return when she's stronger, which she likes because killing a strong opponent is obviously more fun, blah blah, just him trying to be cool. Then Destroyman begs for his life, which Travis also kinda hesitates on, not just giving him the death blow he deserves as fast as possible, and he almost pays with his life for it, but luckily his nipples have a huge gap. With Polly Summers, he again doesn't want to kill her because she's a woman and doesn't seem like a bad person, despite not knowing her at all. So instead of killing her, he wants to let her live, which she does not want to accept and blows herself up, because it brought shame to her. Because when you sign up to be an assassin, you actually fearing death, since it will come eventually, but you also expect it, so you should be able to just accept it and don't beg to not be killed. A stark contrast to Destroyman, who is a little baby in comparison. I mean, he likes superheroes, so that's to be expected. You should be fearing it and don't be like Travis, which she also calls him out on, and we know it's kinda true that he's not totally fearless about death despite trying to act cool. During his battle with death metal, he has an inner monologue, and you can read a lot into it, but for me it sounds like a man who regrets his choice in getting into this business, which is fear in a way. He's fearing what his life has become, and never getting out of this anymore, and having to end like most of these other assassins. Despite maybe enjoying it to a degree, he also hates it, never being able to enjoy a normal life again, because death is waiting around every corner now. Travis is not doing it for justice or anything like that. He's doing it to stroke his own ego and to have sex, that's it. Before he remembers that it was for finding the killer of his parents. But does that make him a hero suddenly? He didn't join this ranking nonsense to kill assassins so they can't kill others anymore to give it some sense of poetic justice. That plays almost no matter to him. He still has a selfish goal and he will do what he can do to get what he wants while also slowly realizing that he's in deep shit. And when he finally gets to kill the killer of his parents, it turns out to be his own half-sister, which he was even in love with, no kidding. Not very satisfying at all to him, and it leaves him with a bitter taste in regards to all of this. Just being happy it's over, which is understandable. In the end, Sylvia has known all of this most likely, which kinda makes her the actual villain. I mean, she gave Travis what he wanted, even if it may have been something he didn't want. So is she really to blame, except for scamming him out of all that money? Most people will think this Wyman is a total asshole for trying to pull cheap tricks on Travis, but is there such a thing like honor when it's a fight to the death? Should honor apply here? Isn't he just smart for trying everything to make sure he will be the survivor instead of the one being finished off? There's no such thing as honor if the other person doesn't have the same sense of honor. You can have your own code of honor, but it's more like a weakness to have because it's easy to be betrayed like that. I mean, the game itself calls out Travis for doing the whole, oh yeah, I might kill people, but killing a woman, that's too far. Even if it's a woman that may have killed tons of people before. Tons of people didn't want to kill Holly, but why? Aside from her being a beautiful lady and the world needs as many as possible of them obviously, just because she shows a shred of goodness and empathy, you don't get to the 6th rank of a whole assassin leaderboard for nothing, you know? Nobody thinks this way about this Royman, because obviously it matters how you present yourself, but in the end they both have done the same bad things, if you consider assassins killing each other to be a bad thing. But it's a video game, emotions can easily be swayed because we know it's not real. There's no problem in saying you support mass murder as long as it's done by a fictional person. If you support it in real life though, that's a different story. Just liking a character's design can be enough to make you like a psychopath. A sad backstory to sway your views on them, to suddenly forgive them for all the bad they have done. Could also work in real life. If you met an actual assassin, you would probably think, whoa, what an idiot, get away from me. Now imagine if your dad told you he joined the local Assassin's Guild though and now has fights to the death with others. You would probably try to talk him out of it or just tell him, you do you, Gramps, or you would just think he's doing a silly dad joke. Travis never had anyone like that to talk him out of it or give him an actual rather normal path in his life. Till he changes as a person, but that's a story for another day when I talk about the sequels eventually, since there he actually finds out about more what truly matters in life to him with the support of others. He, his best friend and basically only friend was Bishop, who is just running a video store, and Travis never really even talks to him about this whole assassin gig. Would he even take him serious about it? I'm also applying too much real life logic to it right now, sorry about that. In the first game, he finally saw this as a way out of his mundane, boring life. A purpose, regardless of how stupid it is. What is your purpose in life? What is mine? For some it's having a family to reproduce and things like that. For others it's our own hedonistic pleasures and doing what makes us happy. Some will never find theirs, but that's just life. I don't know mine either really. Every day is just the same and I know it kinda sucks, but to me it's also quite comforting because I'm just that kind of person. I'm happy without having anything really, while others would consider this out of life as pathetic. This could always change eventually because nothing is the same forever. Maybe I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and finally want to do something big with my life. Or maybe I will continue as the average person for the rest of the days I have to spend here. That's why Travis can be so relatable to people. He took his chance to break out of his boring days, even if it's done in such an anime way. You could never just become an assassin like him, and you shouldn't, but you should take it as an inspiration to get out there and change. If you finally want to change and your days are just boring you to death, try to change your job if you don't like it. Finally get out there and try something new, like joining a bowling club, things like that. Obviously that's easier said than done. It makes you a bit jealous, even if it shouldn't at the end of the day, because I would rather live a boring life than being chased and hunted for the rest of my life, even if it may be fun at first. Also, you quite often see the take of Travis being a loser, but I never saw him as one. I'm gonna be quite honest here, I always thought of Travis as cool as fuck and never cared about if the game has the message of like, he's actually a total loser, you shouldn't strive to be like him, he's a flawed dickhead, but who cares, he's a cool guy that you just want to hang out with, play video games with, talk about your favorite anime with. He for sure has some unique picks that would perfectly align with your own taste if you're into this kind of stuff. Despite not being into wrestling, I would even listen to him talk about it because he has the perfect salesman energy in that passion sense. This will sound a bit mean, but I think we all have listened to people before that talked about something we have no interest in and they just talk so boringly about it. Inside of your head you keep hoping the next sentence will be the last, but they keep talking and talking and talking. With Travis it would be the total opposite. Imagine going to BFAT, the video store of Travis's friend Bishop, and just talking about anime with them like a true otaku back in the day. The best discussion about anime to be ever had. He could talk to me about wrestling for hours and actually make it sound interesting. I even watched some Takeshi Miike movies after No More Heroes 3 because Travis made them sound too appealing, and all I can say is that picking Gozu as the first movie you watch of his could maybe be a bit of a wrong choice. Not a bad movie, but just, I want to say pointless. I wanted to stop watching it, but I couldn't, so it did something right. It's just hard to see him as a loser when there's nothing truly portraying him as one. Is he a loser for living in a tiny motel with tons of anime merchandise? No, that does not make someone a loser. Don't look into my room, please. Is he a loser for not having lots of friends? No, his friendship with Bishop is worth 1,000 friendships. Is he a loser for working tons of minijobs? Nope. That shows he's a hard worker. Is he a loser for killing people? Well, they all kinda signed up for this, so... And the list goes on. You can't truly judge him because you never actually see him interact with a normal person. But we know he has tons of empathy in him despite becoming an assassin. He knows he fucked up joining this business because he isn't just a total psychopath who can kill without feeling anything. He would be a loser in my eyes if he just slaughtered all of them without ever feeling anything. And being a loser changes in the eye of everyone. If he passed you on the streets with an anime shirt on, you might look at him and think, heh, what a nerd. Especially back in the day when anime wasn't totally mainstream yet except for the obvious ones such as Dragon Ball or Pokemon. He also carries tons of trauma with him, having seen his parents being killed right in front of him. That changes a person too, I would think. Also a tiny warning, but I'm entering the headcanon state for a tiny bit here since we really have no idea how Travis normally is like in the first game. You could think the reason he has no friends mostly could be because he has this total cocky attitude, but I think he built that up for the Assassin's gig as a sort of, hey, I want this to be my cool persona instead of being somewhat normal, and also because of the things that happened to his parents, building this tough exterior in a macho kind of way. He's hiding his own fear behind that, but like we know it also breaks down at times when he tries to forgive people or has this little mental breakdown in the first real battle you see. But in his normal life, he's just a somewhat geeky dude. Let's look at No More Heroes 3 real quick. And I know it plays many years after the first one and Travis had mellowed out a lot since then, but in the sections where he talks about the movies, I think that's the real Travis right there, even back in the day. That's the Travis you would get if you became his friend. That's just how we always talk with Bishop, having fun discussing their favorite new anime, with respect even, not the type of person who says your waifu is shit and his one is way better. Headcanon mode off, so yeah, he can be seen as a loser for being a selfish maniac who loves to kill at first and also grunts a lot and lives in a shitty motel and loves nerdy things lots. Even that just makes him a lovable loser then, because he has too many good traits for me to consider him a loser, killing aside. That's a personal problem I have with over the top things that try to call out their own characters at points. It's just too much for me to consider using real life logic on them. I know I shouldn't think this guy is maybe the coolest guy on the block, but I will still think it anyways. The circumstances in the game are not telling me to hate him, they're doing the opposite, but everyone can have their own opinion on this. If you think he's a loser, then he is one in your eyes. For me, the game walks the perfect balance between being silly as hell and also making you take the more serious moments seriously in a way. Travis's master gets killed by a fat granny with a well gun in her shopping cart, and somehow you will think, hell yeah, this is as stupid as it gets, but somehow I will miss his master. What a great soul he was. He even shows up in his own gym as a ghost. I won't even judge him for his taste in women, because just like my own uncle, he likes them big. It takes a certain skill to be able to make you feel such emotions when normally you would just shake your head or laugh at it. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I cried tears for any of the characters in the game, but you do feel this longing sadness sometimes and wishing you didn't have to kill them and could have learned more about them. Obviously this won't land this way for everyone. Some people will still think it's the stupidest game they've ever played, but for someone like me who loves this random stuff, it's just the greatest. One of my favorite anime ever is Nichijou, and even that has some episodes that didn't make me laugh at all, but the overall vibe of it is just perfect. Then you have Nichi Bros, and I know I will make myself some enemies with this because I didn't vibe with that at all. The only good thing about that one was the girl with the snort for me. That's just how comedy and humor works. It has to appeal to you, and if it doesn't, then it just doesn't. You can't force yourself to laugh or enjoy a certain kind of comedy. It just doesn't work like that. I'm not a scientist or anything like that. Actually, I'm quite far away from it, but I know that our brains just work differently sometimes. I hate stand-up comedy, and it's my most hated thing in life. There's not a single joke in life that can be told on a stage that makes me laugh. I know that sounds a bit edgy, but it's just how it is. But look at the people in the audience. They laugh and laugh and laugh at everything the comedian tells them. Makes me almost jealous, but no, what if you take one of those people and put them in front of No Heroes' humor? They will look at me and think I'm some kind of sicko for laughing and enjoying it. Isn't that what makes life great? Billions of people, but we're all different somehow in certain ways. But like I said earlier, you can enjoy this game as a dumb hack and slash and be in for the crazy ride, or you can also enjoy it while you see some deeper meaning behind most of the things in the game. You can have both in life, doesn't have to be this or that, you can just choose to engage with things the way you want to. Yay! Looking at it, it really wasn't a game that ever needed a sequel, but one that made you want to have more. You want to learn more about some of that plot, especially who the little girl at the end of the true ending called Jean is. How does she relate to Sylvia? Nowadays we know it's her mom and Travis is the dad, but back then you just sat there and thought, what? I don't really like to put words into the mouths of the creators, but to me it feels like a mix between of what Suda wanted. He wanted to keep this fairly open-ended, to not totally close the door on it, but he also wanted to just throw some crazy twists at you without ever having to dig deeper into them. It frankly feels a bit silly with how it just throws you all those twists into your face right at the end and ends up feeling more like just being meta about Travis's wish life again, having a constant stream of weird stuff happening because, well, that's fun. And like anime. In the end, there were a bunch of sequels that had to get the shovel out to shovel deeper into them. Did they succeed? Did they fail? That's a story for another day when I am the one with the excavator, so I can dig an even bigger hole for myself, because one of those games was one of my biggest disappointments when it comes to games, but I won't spoil which one. Now you might also wonder, wait, what about the graphics and the OST? Well, you have seen pretty much all of the game to a certain degree. If you like the style, then you like it. If you don't, you don't. I'm not into the technical sides of things too much, so when it comes to these kind of things, I can mostly only say, yep, looks good to me, or man, this game hurts my eyes. Sure, the game has tons of frame drops, but they never went as far as making me throw up. And the OST slaps hard. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night, or anything good that fits your time zone. Just don't become an assassin and everything will eventually go well in your life. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it kinda worked for Travis eventually. You never know unless you do know. What I know is that I'm just blabbing because I'm not good at saying goodbyes. But goodbye, bye bye.